Refurbishment of existing basement. Converting a damp cellar or basement can be a surprisingly inexpensive way of increasing living space and can substantially increase the value of a property. Waterproofed cellars and basements can be converted into kitchens, bathrooms, wine cellars, living rooms, studies, or even recording studios. You are limited only by your imagination. In commercial premises, common uses for basements include extra storage, retail space, car parks, bars, nightclubs, and restaurants. Safeguard offers two main types of system for waterproofing existing cellars and basements. By offering both types of system, we are able to offer an impartial opinion as to which system is best suited for a particular project. Drying out a wet basement. You can cure most water problems with a few simple, low-cost steps. A wet basement is more than a nuisance. If your basement includes finished living space, any kind of moisture can ruin carpeting, drywall, and framing. Even if you have a crawl space or just use your basement for storage, a simple case of condensation can buckle hardwood flooring on the level above and spawn harmful mold. The water most often comes from rainfall and melting snow. Even a small storm can trigger a deluge. A house with a 1,500 square foot roof sheds 1,000 gallons of water for every inch of falling rain. In tougher cases, the problem is rising groundwater, which may even be fed by an underground spring. Once the water accumulates around your foundation, it works its way inside through cracks, joints, and porous material. A pro cure can cost from a few £100 to many thousand. But even if you're knee-deep in water, don't call your banker yet. You can solve most wet basement problems yourself for significantly less than you'd pay a professional. The key is to determine which of the three major problems you have: condensation, runoff, or subsurface seepage. Condensation. Extend downspouts away from house. Extend downspouts at least 4 feet away from the house and install a splash block to help disperse the water. Also called sweating, condensation shows up as water droplets, wet spots, or puddles on basement floors and walls. It happens when moist, warm air hits cool foundation walls or uninsulated cold water pipes, dampening carpets, rusting appliances, and turning the basement clammy. In crawl spaces, condensation encourages wood rot and insect attack, and can buckle and delaminate plywood. Diagnosis. Condensation is easy to confuse with runoff or subsurface water. To tell it from the others, tape foil over damp spots and check it after a day. If moisture forms on the outer foil face, water is condensing from the air. If moisture forms on the foil underside, water is seeping in from outside. Simple cures. Start with the easy stuff. If you have a full basement, air it out by opening windows and running fans. Also consider installing a dehumidifier. About £230 for a heavy-duty unit that will process 50 pints in 24 hours, ideally in a spot near easy drainage. Some experts argue that lowering the humidity in a basement will draw more moisture in, because moisture naturally migrates from higher humidity levels to lower ones. The dehumidifier may draw in 10 to 20% more moisture, but it can easily process it. Bottom line, a drier basement. During colder months, turn up the heat in the basement. Also insulate all cold water to keep moist air from contacting them. And be sure the clothes dry vents to the outside with no duct leaks. Finally, don't dry clothes on a line in the basement or store wet firewood there. Runoff. PVC pipe downspout underground. A dry well fed by a 4-inch PVC pipe running from downspouts can disperse the water gathered from the roof. It should sit on a gravel bed and be wrapped with landscape fabric that holds out silt. Rainwater or melted snow that isn't rooted away from the house is the most common cause of basement and crawl space moisture. Runoff percolates through porous topsoil and then stops at the compact soil near the base of the foundation. Hydrostatic pressure forces the water through gaps or cracks in walls and footings. Water also moves through porous walls by capillary action. Diagnosis: a damp crawl space or wet basement walls and floors just after a storm or as snow melts are telltale signs the problem is runoff. Look for ways runoff can enter your basement or crawl space. Check that the ground outside slopes away from your house at least 1 inch vertically for every 1 foot of horizontal travel. Then make sure downspout runoff isn't pooling or percolating into soil near the foundation during a storm, and that downspout seams aren't leaking. Installing downspout seams out makes this check easy. Next, check that driveway curbs are channeling runoff to the street. Look for unsealed cracks on the driveway surface, which can allow water to collect below grade. Some houses on hilly sites have a swale, a shallow trench with gently sloping sides and a gravel bed covered by topsoil and grass. The swale catches runoff, channeling it past the house or off to other drain systems. Unfortunately, a swale can eventually clog with silt. So can the original underground footing drains buried at the base of your foundation. Also clean gutters so they won't overflow. If your home is not equipped with gutters, install them and make sure the soil around the foundation slopes away from the house 1 inch per foot for a distance of 4 feet. And add downspout extensions if needed so gutters drain 4 feet away from the house onto splash blocks. Many homes have an existing underground drainage system. Unfortunately, the system often breaks apart or fills with silt after several decades. You can call in a drain and sewer cleaning contractor who will use a long power snake to try to clear the lines, but often they just have to be capped off at the surface and abandoned. Instead, drain rainwater from gutters into a dry well, a hole lined or filled with gravel, or a tank that allows runoff to soak into the ground slowly. The system, which features a plastic tank wrapped with polypropylene fabric to block silt, is a typical residential dry well. It can handle runoff from a 500 square foot section of roof. Install a dry well at least 10 feet from the house in a hole 3 feet deep. Then cover it with soil and put a plant on top to mark its location should the system back up. Planting grass alongside your house is another way to absorb excess water. But don't plant trees. Their roots can damage the foundation and an underground drainage system. Severe cases: if water is still gushing into your basement, call in a professional. Otherwise, consider an interior gutter. This dam and channel system goes around the perimeter of the basement floor and collects water that flows down or through the walls or floor, routing it to a floor drain or sump pump. Subsurface sources: interior footing drains made of perforated pipe. For severe seepage, interior footing drains made of perforated pipe set in gravel carry water to a sump pump, which pumps it out of the basement. If your wet basement symptoms act like runoff but occur all the time, you're probably dealing with high groundwater. Diagnosis: unless the foundation is surrounded by soil that has a high clay content, which can hold rainwater and snow melt for months, runoff problems usually come and go as storm water drains away. But if your basement is consistently wet long after a storm, or if water is flowing through your walls or bubbling up where the walls meet the floor, you probably have a subsurface water problem. Check with your city or town to see if the water table is unusually high in your area or if underground springs are common. The film was produced on the basis of multi-year experience and practice with the fight against mold and dampness in households. We are currently doing basement draining works as well as public utilities, eliminating mold fungus. We can get rid of condensation in the West Midlands in the UK. Prior to any work, we analyze and investigate carefully. We conduct measurements and then determine with the investor the method of operation. We are VAT payers. If you are interested, please contact me with Baxter Kazimierz Zerdka.